Hello once again, witchy people, back with another from the series, if you like, for thoughts on new witches, or thoughts for new witches, I should say. And today I thought I'd talk about candles. I have gone into this in a little bit of depth in other videos, but this is specifically for new witches who really don't have that resource to ask. If they're not part of a coven or a large group of people that they can readily ask these questions, or they don't want to ask these questions. Now obviously if you are part of a coven, you have a certain tradition, most things I say won't really jive with your path. This is just, I'm a hedge witch, also known as the lazy witch's path. That's a joke. I'm not meaning to offend other hedge witches, but we do things everything is off the cuff really. Anyway, so candles. There is an awful lot of, and even I do it, you associate certain candles with certain things. So for instance, if you were doing a money spell, you would use a green candle or a gold candle. And all this is fine until you think about how, it's like I've said before, the powers of a spell is in the caster, not necessarily in the objects that you use. You don't need objects to cast a spell, you just need yourself. In saying that, yes, everything, I believe everything has a certain vibration, a certain energy, and you use that energy to help you in spell work. So specifically we're talking about candles for spell work rather than for meditation or anything else. So it's all very well collecting all these different coloured candles, but it can be quite difficult. If you think back to, and I've used this expression a lot, days gone by, and I'm talking about hundreds of years, we didn't have coloured candles. You might have had a green candle because you put herbs in it, but you did that not for any other reason usually than to make the candle smell nice. Though beeswax was obviously a very beautiful scent anyway, and beeswax candles are, or tend to be, a creamy colour to quite a deep yellow. So it's okay to use just white candles, just cream coloured candles, a candle colour that you like, a candle colour you happen to have. It's not going to affect the outcome of your spell, or it shouldn't do. You have to have a lot of faith in yourself. Okay, so the next thing is reusing candles. Now, a lot of witches will keep a candle lit until it burns out, and for that, quite a good idea is to use birthday cake candles. You know, apart from the fact that they come in a multitude of different colours, they are very, very inexpensive, and of course they burn out quite quickly. You don't mind, you don't have to reuse them because they burn out so quickly, but they should stay lit long enough for you to carry out any spell works. So some witches do not like to reuse candles. Personally, I don't mind. I mean, you got to think about candlelight in days gone by in long ago was quite a precious thing. It was the only light you had in the dark. You had moonlight, but if you were shielded inside your house, or hovel as the case may be, candlelight was your only source of bright light that you could do anything with. So they quite often reflected candlelight by putting a bowl of water in front of it, things like that, and used reflective surfaces to bounce the light around. Anyway, I'm digressing. So candles were very precious, so you would never let one burn out unnecessarily. And secondly, you would reuse it very often. You can also think of it this way. If you use a candle for spell work, you are energizing that candle. You should be putting your energy into the candle, and you can do that just by holding it, by the way. You don't need to anoint it with oil, though you may want to. You see, it's very much a if you want to do this. If you think it will help you and empower your spell and help you focus on something, then yes, do it. So that energy you've already anointed that candle with, you can call upon, you can raise that energy again. And you know, that, like I said, that's one way of looking at it. It is worth cleansing a candle before using, and that can simply be I cleanse thee, I cleanse thee, I cleanse thee. You have to have the thought that, and the energy that you can do that. Okay, buying second-hand candles, buying from thrift stores and such like. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Once again, I would cleanse the candle. You can cleanse a candle by cleaning it in water. As long as you don't want to use it straight away, because, you know, wet the wick enough and it won't light properly. Everything that you do, you have to understand, and you have to feel that power within you. You have to understand that that power is yours. You own it and you use it. And any tool that you use, or anything else that you use to enhance your practice and your spell work, is just that. It's an enhancement. That isn't the power. You are the power. So buying from thrift stores, yes, it's fine. If the candle has already been lit, I would give it a thorough cleanse. Do not just think it'll be fine, because you don't know what the candle's been used for previously. Like I said, you can put your energy into that candle. So if you are vibing that candle, you are energizing that candle, then someone else may have done the same thing with a different intention to you, a different feeling than you have, and you know, so you really want to be very careful in that sense. I guess the next thing is, I think I've mentioned this before as well. Okay, if you want to anoint a candle, and you do this with oil, and you do simply rub the candle. Some people prefer to rub from the wick down. Some people prefer to rub from the base up. It is a preference, and depending on your point of view, it can also depend on what you want to use the candle for, especially during spell work. So if you wanted to use it, for instance, for binding, then you would reverse it, so you do it from the tip down. If you wanted to do it to send out healing energy, for instance, not saying that binding energy can't be healing energy, but binding doesn't have to be a negative energy. I will get into that at some point. But if you anointed it from the base to the tip, it's almost like you are energizing the candle up to send the power out, if you see what I mean. So if you anoint with oil, and you anoint your candle with oil, it doesn't matter what oil you use. Yes, you can buy, make, be gifted oils. It is always best to know what's in the oil, to be honest. But if olive oil is what you have in your cupboard, then olive oil is what you use. And let's face it, olives and the olive tree and the olive plant are quite a powerful symbol, especially for peace. So that could be a really good idea anyway. A lot of people like to also anoint their candles with herbs. Not actually necessarily, though sometimes if you haven't got a certain colour candle but you really feel like you should and you want a certain colour candle, you can replace the candle colour with scent, and you use that by anointing the candle with oil and or herbs. So you use a scent that represents a colour. For instance, rose can represent pink, sandalwood can represent orange, dragon's blood can represent red. Very basic things here, you know. And it can also be for, like for instance, for me, black is not a negative colour, it's a very protective colour. So I associate basil with dark purples and blacks because basil is a very protective herb. So if I wanted something black, I could anoint it with something that's basil scented, or I could use basil scented incense. I could use a basil oil and anoint the candle in a basil oil, and that to me would represent a black candle or a dark purple candle. I think that's about it. Like, oh no, the other thing is extinguishing your candle. As I said before, some witches do like to let their candle burn out. I mean, I've said it before, I've probably got enough candles to last me 2 lifetimes at least. And I still will not let a candle burn out. I'm quite frugal with my candles. Now, some people believe that to blow a candle out is insulting. To wet a candle out, use water to put a candle out, is insulting. It's insulting to the element of fire that you are using another element against it. So you use a candle snuffer, or you, and I've said this before, lick, pinch very quickly the flame. Unless you're used to doing that, I mean, I've got tough old fingers. My fingertips are very, very tough. They haven't got much feeling, to be honest. So I don't mind pinching out candle flames occasionally. I wouldn't advise everyone to do it. So a nice little candle snuffer, and they are very inexpensive. If you can't find a candle snuffer, you could use anything that's not flammable. So you could even use a little china red cup and use that to put the candle out. Anything actually that you squash a candle flame with will, chances are, will put it out, because it tends to squash into the wax, and the wax will extinguish the candle. So once again, it's up to you. I have no qualms whatsoever blowing out a candle. And I'll say it again, in days gone by, if you were a practicing witch, let's face it, and I'm not talking about these people that were accused of witchcraft that weren't witches. If you were a practicing witch and you were using a candle and you didn't want, you know, perhaps you heard someone coming close or something else, and you wanted to very quickly snuff out the candle, it would be, what I tend to do is cover my hand in front of the flame and blow it out. It's the quickest thing to do. So I don't have any problems with blowing out a candle. In fact, I find it very magical. If you blow out a candle and then you can just watch the wisp of smoke going in there, that can be quite a powerful addition to any spell work. You can imagine part of the energy of your spell being in that smoke, just going out and spreading out and gaining power as it goes. Just because the smoke dissipates doesn't mean to say it's losing power. For instance, I mean, if you walk into a room an hour after you've extinguished a candle, you can still smell that candle being burning in that room, whether it's scented or not. So there you go. It shouldn't matter about scent or colour unless you want it to. Another thing you can do, if you're really bothered about the colour of your candle, get a old pen that doesn't work anymore and write the colour of the candle in a white candle, or write what you want to use the candle for. And so, like, say you wanted to use to gain money, write money on the candle. You know, use runes if you like runic symbols. I love runic symbols. But yeah, so there are ways around if you really want to use a coloured candle but you don't have any. But also there are, you know, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to use certain colour candles. And just because, like I said before, green represents money, sometimes gold, doesn't mean to say that if that's not what you feel is the right thing for you, perhaps silver is more precious than gold, or gemstones are more precious than gold, so perhaps you want to use a pretty pearlized candle, or, you know, or perhaps pink represents, or purple represents richness and luxury to you, so that's what you want to use for a money spell. Then do it. And I'll say it again, and I've said it before, if you are using something in a spell that you don't in your heart and soul believe in, it's not going to work. Whether someone tells you green is for money and you don't see it that way, you don't feel it that way, then it's not for you. Choose the colour that makes you feel is the right thing for that spell, because you have to align with that vibration, that energy of the colour or the tool that you're using. So there you go. That's it. Candles. Just a few thoughts on candles specifically. And that's it for now. Thank you for watching, witchy people. I'll be back soon. Bye bye now.